What are you thinking
Tell
about?
me what you're thinking.
Have you ever thought about, I wonder
Why
why?
is that the way you think it is?
Is that really your opinion?
Shh.
The Thoughts of Thinkers
The
podcast.
Thoughts of Thinkers podcast.
All right. What's up again? This is episode number 2. The Thoughts of Thinkers podcast. What's going on, guys? Guys and gals and everybody out there. I just want to start by saying thanks to everybody that listened to the first one. I got quite a bit of feedback, way more than I was expecting for sure. All positive, so thank you for that. Thank you for everybody that listened and gave me the time of day. Everyone surprisingly had very positive things to say. One thing I didn't expect was a lot of people said that I had a good voice. Well, a couple people said that. A couple people said that I had a good voice, which is one thing that I wasn't expecting. But thank you. And to anybody that listened and wasn't digging it, wasn't feeling it, thought it was stupid or whatever, decided to keep their comments to themselves, so thank you to those people too. I guess I've been successful at surrounding myself with good people, because the people who said something was positive, and anybody who thought negatively decided to keep that to themselves, so I guess I did all right. This is episode number 2. I got a few people that reached out to me also that wanted to be guests and were interested in having some conversations, so I'm excited about that. That'll be coming soon. I'm also working on getting the podcast put onto a bunch of different platforms. It's just on YouTube right now, but I'm going to be getting it put onto Stitcher and iTunes and all those other podcast platforms, so anybody who uses those frequently will be able to find that. I just need to get a RSS feed set up and all that kind of stuff, so that'll be coming soon. I'm also working on getting a portable microphone so that we don't have to sit here in front of my computer with this microphone. I can do podcasts with people as I travel around and do things, and maybe sitting by a fire one night we can have a fireside chat or something, so that might be cool. That might be something to look forward to. But I'm having fun doing it. Feeling a little bit more comfortable in front of the microphone. My ego keeps telling me that this is stupid and asking me what I'm doing. Like most people would, I guess. We all have fragile little egos that don't like to get tested very often, but I like testing mine. So it's been fun. I think it'll get better and better as time goes on. And so, talking about egos, I think it would be appropriate to dive a little bit into psychedelics. I don't know if anyone out there has ever experimented. I would encourage it. I'd be careful. If you have any history of mental illness or any kind of mental instability, I would caution you very strongly. But for most people, I think it's an important experience to have. I've dabbled with psychedelics just a handful of times, not very many. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm like a fucking Terrence McKenna or anything. I've microdosed a few times, mushrooms, psilocybin. I've done acid once. I've done MDMA a few times. Sorry, Mom. I know you're listening to this. But yeah, let's get into it. Psychedelics, man. Have you ever done them? What do you think? I think that psychedelics are, well, first of all, they've been a part of our human society for hundreds and thousands of years. I mean, I don't know when the first records of people using psychedelics, I don't know when that first came about, but I know that it was thousands and thousands of years ago. I mean, you have the people in South America using ayahuasca and things like that, and you have the natives using peyote and all kinds of crazy stuff. So I think that psychedelics are an important part of the human experience. Contrary to what society would have you believe, doing psychedelics is not going to make you fucking crazy. I don't think that it's going to make you jump off of a fucking roof. I don't think it's going to make you go on some murderous killing spree. I think that it just opens your mind up to some things that you might not have been open to before. I think that in the past, with the war on drugs and the government liking to have complete control over society, I mean, as to be expected, that's how it's always been. There's always been a ruling class, and that ruling class has always liked to stay in power. The ruling class never gives up its ability to rule very easily. And I think that psychedelics allow you to question things in a different way. I think they allow you to question society in ways that the people in power would rather you not question. I think in Western society, in America, we had, the hippie movement of the 60s. And, we had tons of protests and all this great music that came out. There's, women's rights and, civil rights movement, all this kind of stuff was coming out all around the same time. And I think a lot of it had to do with the use of psychedelics. I mean, everybody was dropping acid and starting to look at society in a way that was different in the past. I think, after World War II, America was thriving, and it was all about the working class, the middle class. It was all about, the white picket fence and the car and the having a family. I mean, it was the American dream. It was kind of the stereotypical American dream is what society basically was. And the children of that got introduced to some different perspectives, I guess you could say. They started to use drugs to open up their mind a little bit, and it started to make them question, is this really what life is about? Is going to work and having a job and getting debt and paying your bills and having a bank account and driving a car and commuting to work, is that what this is all about? And I think that there are many, 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 many societies out there in the past and present that would argue that not only is that not right, it's actually really, really unhealthy. And I think that people started to realize that. And so you had a lot of civil unrest. The Vietnam War was protested. I mean, all that kind of stuff went on. I'm not going to get into all that. But I think the war on drugs kind of was as much of a failure as the war on drugs was. It was successful at suppressing a lot of that. And, you know, the heroin and the meth and the really, really hard, detrimental drugs to your health flourished. And the ones that were actually good for your mind, the psilocybin and the acid and all the others, the MDMA, those were successfully suppressed. I meet a lot of people even now. I mean, even people my age and that I talk to and that I'm around still to this day think that, oh, I don't want to take acid because I'll just fucking freak out and jump out of a window or something. And a lot of that was propaganda. A lot of that was put out by the government to make you think that playing with your consciousness was a dangerous thing, and it is. I mean, I don't want to sit here and say that everybody should just drop a shitload of acid, because playing with your consciousness is definitely something that shouldn't be taken lightly. But I don't think that it's as dangerous as the government or society would like to make you think it is. Like I said, there has been societies in the past that psychedelics are a huge part of everything they do. I mean, a lot of these societies are using psychedelics as almost a rite of passage. I mean, there's a lot of places where psychedelics is almost like a coming-of-age ceremony. Shamans who have done, like the shamans in the Amazon rainforest, have done psychedelics, God, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. They drink an ayahuasca so much. And those are the most respected people in their society. I mean, the shamans are like the fucking doctors and the politicians and they're everything. They make the choices. They're the people you turn to when you have troubles, and they seem to have some sort of wisdom that most of the normal people don't have. And I don't know if that's just perceived. I don't know if you can gain some kind of crazy wisdom from doing psychedelics. I think you can. I feel like I gained a different perspective. I think I gained some wisdom about the universe after doing psychedelics. And so I think it's important. I think that society could benefit quite a lot, actually, from the use of psychedelics. I really do. And even just microdosing. You know, there's those people, the people in Silicon Valley have reported using psilocybin. They're microdosing psilocybin and experiencing really great benefits. Shout out to Oakland, California for decriminalizing all psychedelic substances, peyote, DMT, everything, which is really cool, because not only is it about using it, it's about learning and understanding it. Western society isn't huge on spirituality or feelings or anything like that. They're big on science and experimenting and understanding these compounds. And when everything is illegal, it's kind of hard to study. You're never going to get a grant from the government to open up a clinic that studies DMT. I mean, it's just not going to happen in Western society. And so it's hard for us to really understand what these compounds are. I mean, if you ask a shaman or someone else in some other society that's they would say, you know, it's the food of the gods or something. You know, it's a communication device, with the higher realms. And as awesome as that is, in Western society, that doesn't really mean anything to us. Having some kind of spiritual connection or some kind of spiritual experience isn't really acknowledged in our society for whatever reason, even though our entire fucking society is built on this Christian faith and the Bible and all that shit, which is a whole nother book of worms that I'm not going to get into. But book of worms, is that a thing? I don't think that's a thing. Can of worms, I guess, is what I was trying to say. But book of worms, I guess, if we're talking about the Bible, that could work. That could definitely work. So yeah, I think I just think that psychedelics open up your mind to a different perspective. It's like, we were talking last episode about consciousness and how I look at consciousness as just basically the way you interact with reality. It's how you perceive the world around you. Your senses, your brain basically uses your senses to gain information about the world around you, and it creates this reality for you. It creates everything you see and hear, and it kind of creates this world around you that your brain can understand and interact with. And we have rules of society and all these different kind of things that we need to learn in order to interact with the world around us. There's all different kinds of things that your brain does to create your experience of life. And I think that what psychedelics does is it takes the way your brain receives information and it just changes it just enough to where now the reality you're perceiving is not the reality that you're used to perceiving. And so it forces your brain to look at things in a new way. It's almost like your brain is trying to understand, and that creates new pathways. I heard it said once, I forget who said it. I want to give the credit to Duncan Trussell, but I'm not sure that it was him. It was some psychedelic guru. I would say Duncan Trussell is probably as close as we can get to a Western shaman. Maybe Terrence McKenna and a few others too, but he described psychedelics and the way it affects your brain is, if you think about, your brain creates pathways, and the more you do something, it's like the old saying, practice makes perfect, right? You do something, the first time you do it, you're going to fail because your brain doesn't know how to do it. It's never done it before. Let's take juggling, for instance. Something I was actually just teaching a friend how to do. The first time you try and juggle, it's going to be a mess. You're going to throw shit all over the place. It's not going to work. But you continue to do it. You try, you keep practicing, and eventually you're going to learn how to juggle. And what's happening is your brain is creating pathways. It's almost like creating little memories in your hands, in your eyes, in everything that you're doing. It's almost creating it's just creating a little pathway that it can reference, so that now every time you go to juggle, your brain knows exactly what to do, and you know how to juggle. And the more you do it, the better you get, the deeper those pathways get. And the way I heard it described by Duncan Trussell was, it's like a river, and the thought that you have is the water. And so the river flows and it cuts into the earth, right? The water erodes the earth away and it creates a little embankment, and it creates this little river, and the river flows through that over and over and over again, and it eventually gets deeper and deeper and deeper until you get something like the Grand Canyon, right? And so the more you do something over and over and over and over and over again, the deeper those pathways in your brain get. And that's how you get professionals. That's how you get these people who are just so good at something. You can't even process how good someone is. You ever see those videos of people juggling where they're juggling like 15 balls at once behind their back with their eyes closed on top of a fucking plank? And you're just like, what the fuck's going on? Well, what that is these pathways. These pathways getting formed within the brain. And they get deeper and deeper and more prominent. And I think that it's the same with everything, right? Going to work, commuting to work, and doing this repetitive task over and over. And the society that we live in, you get used to it. You get used to how everything is and how everything is supposed to be. Like the river. The river is carving into the earth. It's creating this canal, this pathway. And what psychedelics do is it floods everything. It floods the water, and now that little river that the water was in can no longer hold it, and the water floods all across the plain. And what happens is, now, instead of the water being stuck in this little canal that it can't escape from, now it has an opportunity, because it's outside of that, to create new pathways, to carve new rivers, to carve new little canals that can slowly create new rivers. And that's kind of that's kind of a metaphor that you can think about psychedelics with, is that these psychedelics take these pathways in your brain, these thoughts and these habits and whatever, and flood everything and create new ones. And it allows you to perceive life in a different way, to be able to look at things in maybe a way that you've never thought of before. It's also, there's a lot of studies being done right now with psychedelics being used to treat addiction. And if we're thinking about these pathways in our brain as basically just being habits, well, some of the strongest habits are addictions, cigarettes and drugs and all kinds of stuff, drinking, and there's a lot of studies being done right now where they are using psychedelics to break those habits, to break those pathways in your brain that say that you need this substance, and create new ones that say you don't. And from what I've read, from the little bit that I've read, they've been pretty successful. I don't know how extensive the research is into it. Like I said before, it's kind of hard to experiment with these substances when they're Schedule 1, which is absolute fucking bullshit too. But there is some research being done, and I think that it's starting to look promising. There's a research institute called MAPS, which is using MDMA to treat PTSD, which I think is another form of these pathways being formed in your brain where, if you went to war, got raped or had some kind of super traumatic experience. I work for the military. I work with a lot of people who are veterans of the U.S. military and who have seen war, who have been overseas, who have fought for this country, and a lot of them have PTSD. And so I know what that looks like. My brother is a Marine. He has really bad PTSD. He actually lost his daughter, which was super traumatic for him, and has started experimenting with psychedelics to help treat his PTSD. And so this MAPS program, this scientific research company, I guess, I don't really know what it is, but it's called MAPS. It's called, let me get the name of it. Okay. I've got it right here. And MAPS is the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, MAPS. It is a 501c nonprofit research and educational organization. And its main purpose is to treat mental disorders like PTSD using psychedelic substances like ayahuasca, like MDMA, like ketamine and iboga. That's what it's called, right? Iboga. Ibogaine, I think, is a scientific name for it. And they're using these substances to explore to research into, like I said, mental disorders, and it's looking promising. So I don't know, I guess I kind of just went into this one without a plan. Actually, I did have a plan, but I said fuck that, I want to talk about psychedelics. So I started talking about it. I think it's important. You know, it just seems like the people who have their head on straight, you know, sometimes you meet people where you're just like, man, that person's a cool fucking person. That person, for whatever reason, seems to understand some things that most people don't. A lot of people that I meet, I can usually tell if they've ever experimented with psychedelics before. With conversating with them for less than an hour, I can usually pick up on whether or not they've experimented with psychedelics. I think it's just, like I said, it changes your perspective on some things. You know, one good thing about it is that, and this is, you know, probably why society and the government and the people in power wanted to restrict the use, is because it breaks down your need for that. You no longer need this illusion of power, because it's just an illusion of power. The government's only powerful because we think they are. And in fact, in America, they're not powerful at all. The people have the power, but that's another subject. I'm going to try and stay on track here and not tangent too much. But I think that psychedelics break down your need for the surface level bullshit. It breaks down your ego, so you no longer need to impress anybody. You no longer need the new shoes and the freshest hat, and you can, you know, have a little stain on your shirt and it's not going to ruin your fucking day. You know what I'm saying? You can connect with people a little deeper. I've always felt that the people that have used psychedelics that I interact with, I can always connect with way deeper. It just seems that they have a better understanding of what life truly is. And society would like you to believe that life is about consumption, capitalism. You know, you need to go to work to provide for your family, and you need to fucking make money so that you can buy shit, and you need to be a consumer. You need to be a good little consumer. And that's probably the number one thing that psychedelics will break, is the idea of consumerism. And like I said, that's probably a huge reason why they're illegal. I mean, especially here in America. I'm not like an anti-capitalist or anything, but I do understand its downfalls, and I do understand that it can easily be corrupted, and I do understand that it has been to a certain extent. I understand that it's a powerful, powerful thing. This capitalist society is super powerful, and consumerism is super powerful. And so it's really easy to fall into the trap of consumerism, to get debt, right? Oh, I can't afford that car, but they'll give me a fucking good loan with a low interest payment, so I'll be fine, right? But then the car's not good enough and you need a fucking motorcycle too. That's coming from personal experience, by the way. So now you got a car and you got a bike. But then you need a couple other things, and now you're fucking broke because you got too much bills to pay. But guess what? You just got a fucking credit card in the mail. And that credit card gave you a fucking $10,000 limit. And now, you're fucking rolling, boy. You're good. And so that's what the society does. It convinces you that consumerism is important. It's basically the backbone of this country. And so it does everything in its power to turn you into a consumer and to trap you as that. Because it's not good enough to just be a consumer, right? You need to stay one forever. And that's where debt and all kinds of fun stuff come from. And I am kind of getting on a tangent here, but the reason why I started talking about that is because all that stuff that goes on in our society gets broken down through psychedelics. You kind of realize, like, wait, we're just all fucking people living on a rock in space. I mean, what the fuck is this? What? I need Nikes? What the fuck do I need that for? You know, I'm just a little monkey living on a rock, floating around a fucking fireball in the middle of infinite nothingness. You know, it's all an illusion. This society and everything is somewhat of an illusion to make you think that what's going on is important. But it really isn't. Like I said last episode, the universe could throw a bigger rock into us tomorrow. And it would all be for what? So I think that psychedelics, I don't know. Would they break down society completely? If everybody started taking psychedelics and it became a part of our mainstream society, like cigarettes and alcohol and coffee are. I mean, can you imagine if taking mushrooms became as normalized as coffee? I don't think it ever could, though, because coffee just makes you work harder. Mushrooms make you definitely not work harder. Mushrooms make you question why you're fucking working in the first place. So I don't know if they ever could get normalized like coffee or alcohol or cigarettes are, but can you imagine, though? Would this society even exist? I don't even think it could. I think the society would completely fucking break down. I think that all of our institutions would fail. This illusion of normality, because it is just an illusion. I mean, what is normal? I've got a sticker on my computer right here that says, weird is normal, normal is weird. Shout out to Big Boy, by the way, for that sticker. So yeah, maybe everyone shouldn't do mushrooms. Because I do kind of like this society. I mean, it is pretty dope. I get to do this podcast. I get to have friends. I have a pretty good job and food and a roof over my head, which is more than a lot of people on this planet can say. So I do appreciate this society. I don't want it to sound like I'm some fucking asshole that's just, fuck society, man. You know, I'm definitely not that. I do appreciate this and what it is, but I just recognize that it's all an illusion. And I think that maybe not everyone should do mushrooms, and maybe this society shouldn't completely break, but at least give a different perspective. Give yourself a different perspective on what this really is, you know? And maybe it doesn't have to break society down completely, but maybe just change a few things, you know? Like war, you know? We don't have to end society. Maybe we can just end war. That would be pretty cool. Right? America doesn't have to completely break down. It can just stop fucking fighting people. But then again, human beings have been at war with each other since since God put them here. I don't know. Human beings have been fighting each other forever, so I don't know if war would ever stop, but maybe one day, maybe we can, with a different perspective on, our reality, we can stop destroying this planet. I think that would be another good thing. We don't have to break society down. We can just build our society in a way where we can live without being super destructive. That might be cool. I know that there's like a climate change debate going on right now, which is kind of, I can't believe there's even a fucking debate about it. I think that it's stupid for us to think that we don't have an effect on this planet at all. Maybe it's a little blown out of proportion. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I do think we are having an effect. I think that there's a lot of plastic in the oceans. I think there's a lot of less fish in the ocean. I think that the rivers are polluted. I think that forests are being cut down. I think that fossil fuels are affecting our air negatively. There's some things here where it doesn't have to mean that we're destroying the planet completely, but we are kind of fucking it up. If this was your room, if the planet was your room would be a fucking mess. If the planet was your house, you'd have dishes in the sink and you'd have fucking stains on the carpet and you'd have fucking cat piss everywhere, and you know what I'm saying? If the world was your house, you're not destroying your house, but you're not fucking keeping it up either. And maybe psychedelics would help in changing our perspective on things. We can even still be consumers. We just don't have to consume as much. Why do companies always have to expand? That was one thing I never understood, was why does a company have to expand? Can't they just get big as they need to be and then just stay there? You know what I mean? Does Amazon have to be worth fucking a gazillion billion dollars? I don't know. I think that, we can have more localized stores would be cool. And so these are all things that I like to think about. I'm kind of going on all kinds of crazy directions, but I guess my main point is changing our perspective on the world, and so we can build a society in a way that's not so detrimental to us and the planet and our kids and our future. And education is failing, and it's like another thing that always blew my mind was the military budget for our country is through the fucking roof, but the education budget is fucking garbage. It just never made sense to me that we're going to put all this money into fucking war when we can just educate our people enough to where we don't need to go to war. Or if we do, we're not going to have like an infinite fucking military budget. Can you imagine the world if we had an infinite education budget? If fucking teachers got paid like doctors? No, not even like doctors. If teachers got paid like these fucking CEOs. Can you imagine if you were a teacher and you were worth $150 billion? Fucking shout out Jeff Bezos. That'd be a dope fucking society to live in. I don't know nothing. No sabe nada, fool. I don't know nothing. I'm just fucking ranting at this point. But hopefully it's a good rant. This is the kind of things, I guess this is what the point of this podcast is, because this is what I think about. These are the thoughts that I have, and now I'm just vocalizing them. Glad to say I've got comfortable in front of this microphone, huh? More comfortable than I have been. Finally got loose a little bit. But yeah, these are the things that go on in my head. These are the things that I think about. These are the thoughts of thinkers. I mean, this is what goes on. And so I don't know. what do we do? Is there anything to do about it other than just fucking think and talk? I used to be a firm believer in discussing ideas. I used to think that the way to save the planet is to just keep discussing and to share ideas, and eventually they'll catch on and people will adopt the ideas. But I'm not too convinced of that anymore. I've done my fair share of discussing. I've done my fair share of trading ideas and trying to convince people, trying to persuade people, but it never works. But yet here I am doing a podcast, doing that exact fucking thing. I'm not really trying to convince anybody of anything. I guess I'm just talking and ranting, but yeah, who knows? I don't know if there's anything that can be done other than just thinking and talking. A lot of my influence comes from a podcast that I listen to called Tangentially Speaking. Big fucking surprise, right? But it's ran by a guy named Dr. Chris Ryan. He's an author and a world traveler and a fucking pretty cool person. And he's got a book out right now called Civilized to Death. He also has another book from a few years ago called Sex at Dawn, which is good. If you're into any of this kind of stuff that I'm bullshitting about, you should check out his podcast, Dr. Chris Ryan. It's called Tangentially Speaking. But it's a good one. He discusses a lot of these topics. And he's actually got a PhD, so he's a little bit more qualified than my dumbass. But yeah, anyways, I guess that's it. I said what I needed to say, I guess. Good little episode for episode number 2. I've got a bunch of people. Well, I don't got a bunch of people. I got a few people that were interested in coming on and being guests. So that might be coming pretty soon. So it won't just be me sitting here ranting to my microphone and my computer. We'll actually be able to have a little bit of dialogue and hopefully disagree on some things. That way we can discuss them. I'm not really interested in just sitting here and repeating each other and just fucking talking about all the same shit. I'd like to, share some ideas and disagree a little bit and explore them with someone, open up some dialogue. So I've got a few people interested that might be coming in the future. I've got a bunch of other topics that I'd like to talk about. But it seems like trying to plan a topic and stick to that one topic is going to be pretty difficult for me. If I'm going to be honest, it's going to be pretty difficult for me. So I think I'm just going to start with something and then see where it goes. Kind of like this one was. So, again, if you made it this far, thank you. I don't expect anybody to listen to these, so even if one person does, that'll be cool. So yeah, again, thank you. Anybody who has any input I welcome it. If you have any ideas of things you'd like to hear me talk about, or anything, good, bad, whatever, send it my way. You can hit me up on Instagram at TOT.podcast. I'm probably going to try and get some kind of video worked out so it's not just audio, but I haven't really decided yet what I want to do as far as that goes. If I want to just record the people I'm having conversations with, or if I want to make it a little bit more artistic, maybe do some artwork in the background while I'm talking or something. I don't really know. if you have any ideas for that, I'm open to it. And then I don't know if I've mentioned, but I'm working on getting these podcasts out to all the platforms, the Stitcher and iTunes and all that stuff. So I'll have that coming soon. Like I said, you can follow me on Instagram, TOT.podcast. That's where any updates will be coming from. But other than that, stay tuned. Episode 3 will be coming soon. I think I'm going to be doing... I haven't decided. It depends on how many podcasts I record. Because I am going to pre-record these and then release them at a later date. I'm thinking once a week. But I think I'm going to start with twice a month first. So that'll be once every other week. Maybe build up a little bit of a backlog. And then depending on, like I said, how successful this gets, if people are even interested, if I retain my interest in it, if I record a bunch, whatever, depending on a few different things, I might start releasing them every week, once a week. So, yeah, I think that's it for episode 2. I'm going to close out with that. Again, thanks for listening. I appreciate it. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.